I don't know what's going on right now, but it's making me very nervous. How's it going, everybody? I'm Zen, and welcome back to Dice Checks. This is not Morvar. This is a good friend of mine by the name of Garret. Morvar is in the room. He is behind the scenes right now. Hey, buddy.
Hi.
But we wanted to have a guest in today, as our topic for today is role-playing. Roll initiative, because we're about to get into this for real. How's it going, first of all, Garret?
He's doing good. Hot. Tired.
Give him a description of your character, if you mind.
The character is pretty much an opposite of me physically. It's me mentally. I am a stout dwarf, barbarian, totem warrior. All of my totems are in the bear stat, so I can carry around 1,000 pounds.
It's a lot. He is a barbarian, and he plays very well to the barbarian pattern. Not to get into the depths of it, but he is a very tanky character, in the sense that he takes half damage to almost everything.
Everything but psychic, and I have pretty much double the hit points of everybody else. And
I like to bring him in because he's a good example of roleplay. He takes his roleplaying very well. He plays a very proud dwarven character. What were your inspirations for that character?
At the time, like, whenever I play video games, I like to play the tanky character, the loud character, the guy that can, like, carry a team on his back, metaphorically and literally.
Yeah. You did do that last time. You had the rogue stealth on your back as a backpack.
That's a golden idea. I'm so glad we came up with that.
That was good. And it worked. It gave us a surprise round.
Yeah. Assassinate too.
That was good. But let's talk about roleplay. We're going to be talking about GM roleplaying as well as character roleplaying. Yeah. Let's start with character, because that one's the more that most people do, as there's more players than GMs.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second. Well, first off, how do you roleplay? Like, how do you get into Arendir?
The way I get into the mindset is before every session, I watch Critical Role, which is like a streaming thing in D&D and all that. And it kind of gets me into the mindset, and whenever I'm driving over here, I listen to kind of like some pumped up like action-like music stuff that kind of gets me going, gets the adrenaline going. And when I get here, I just have a mindset where it's like, I'm the shit. Because I am the shit.
That's interesting, because you typically play a very self-sacrifice role.
Oh, yeah.
You've jumped off cliffs to save friends before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do that because that's my team. And I need people to acknowledge that I'm the shit.
There you go. Like, what are some of your favorite moments from role-playing?
Oh my god. One would have to be the sand keg ale.
Okay, let me explain this, ladies and gentlemen. This was a little bit of a borrow from Critical Role as well, but there is an alcohol that was a very numbing agent that I created. And it was made similar to the Critical version. It was made from a gland, from a poison. But anyway, basically, it's like a super morphine plus some other stuff mixed in there. Drinking it typically causes numbness in the sense of you're going to snail and slug on the ground. He decides to drink
an entire bottle.
More than that, he tends to also buy, I think, what was it, a 50-pound-gallon drum?
I now have 60 gallons.
You making me laugh is making me nervous. I don't know what's going on right now, but it's making me very nervous.
It was probably my face because I was sitting here with my eyes closed. Yeah, so I have a 60-gallon barrel of sand keg ale, and the first time I drank it, we had a bet with a bunch of people. We ended up winning the bet, sorta. We got like 3,000 gold from it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the cost of me just straight up slumping on the ground and my allies having to drag my 600-pound ass.
They didn't have to drag you. They more or less had to flip you head over heel.
That's gold.
I think Jacob actually hired some people nearby to act as like sled dogs for you.
Oh, God.
Just grabbing a bunch of ropes and pulling you where they needed to go. Upstairs, even.
Oh, no.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Good times. That was a great moment. I love that moment.
Oh, you want to talk about a really good moment?
Yeah. Well, let's hit a good roleplay moment. Like one of your moments where you feel like you really got Arendir really well. Because I have some that I picked out for every character. One of my favorites was the No Man Left Behind one with you. Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember.
Where you had your buddy that was left in the Drow City.
Oh, God.
And you fought the entire party to go back and kill
Or not
the entire city if need be to bring him back.
Yeah, It was a Dragonborn guy I freed in like the Underdark, and I got really attached to him. I loved him to death. And then I realized in the heat we had like just finished a combat sort of deal, and we were leaving. And after all that combat, I had forgotten about him, who was passed out in a corner. We get back. Click. My boy.
he just looked at me. He's like, "Hey, what happened to my friend?"
I don't know.
The heartbreak was real.
So everybody was like, "Dude, if you go, you can go ahead and go kill yourself. That's pretty much it. That's what's going to happen." I said, "Okay, bring me."
Luckily, I am not a sadist to my players, and there was a way for the Dragonborn to make his way back to a safe area without a lot of messing around. So it actually worked out very well for everybody. You might have died if you would have went though. That was
probably
bad. But that was good though. That was one of my favorite moments that you've done. But let's hit on role playing from the GM perspective, because this is something that GMs will eventually have to do one way or the other. And there's a lot of ways you can go about this, because as I've said before, there's no wrong way to role play. But there is what I call positive and negative role playing, in the sense of you can add to a character or you can take it away. A lot of people love taking away from a character. They love it, and because everybody wants to be Batman. Because even in our small group of players, I've had somebody try and make a Batman character. Just as, I'm going to sit in the corner and scowl. And that sounds really good until you realize that is the most boring character to play in that way. Yeah. Because they avoid every contact. They avoid situations. They tend to just walk away. Which is cool every now and then. It gives you this real Clint Eastwood-like character. Yeah. But only doing that and only capitalizing on the lack of depth tends to hurt you, I feel, in the long run. This is my opinion, of course.
I kind of agree with that, because Arendir, I'm a very vocal person in real world, and Arendir kind of portrays that as well. Not to I don't think it's metagaming. I'm just a gouty. Is it gouty?
I'm not sure. I understand what you're saying.
Hardy.
There we go.
Hardy, fair-going dwarf. And whenever people give me trouble, I give them trouble. When people are good to me, I'm usually good to them.
So I try to always add to my characters when I'm role-playing an NPC. I try not to take away. I try to add a flaw or something. In a GM tip with Taliesin Jaffe and Satine Phoenix, Taliesin Jaffe mentioned something he called the Seven Dwarves method.
Oh, yeah.
All right, in which he picked characteristics from the Seven Dwarves, which are, Doc, Dopey, Bashful, etc., and would pick a couple of moments, and that would be the building blocks of a character. Yeah. He'd literally add to it. I actually kind of borrowed this amazing idea of his, and I made what I call the Snow White Matrix. I added a couple other archetypes. I added the Princess, Charming, the Queen, etc. And I find this is a really cool idea just because it helps with these on-the-spot, I need a character to be made now, because, you guys do weird, awkward turns at Albuquerque, and I don't know where this is going. But it's really helpful in those moments, I find. Just being able to make a character on the spot, but at the same time, not making characters so fast in my haste that I make it a very boring character. Because nothing's worse so is this guy named? Oh, I'm Jim. Hi. That's cool, but after the 5th or 6th Jim, it gets boring. So I try and add a little quirk with every NPC I make.
Like a good example of that would be I'm like just starting on Critical Role series and stuff. Victor, the black...
That is a perfect example of that. That is so good.
Because you don't see him often, but when you do, it's so memorable.
Yes, it is. That was a great character. Matt Mercer is definitely a master of making very memorable NPCs. But that would be one tip that I've so far found in my very small experience, is to try to add more than take away from a character. And this goes for both NPCs and players. Because nobody can be as cool as Batman. You can be close, but give yourself something to add to the Batman archetype. I know there's a character that I've seen who played a Batman-esque archetype, but he had a soft spot. He was very huff and tough, except for children. He opened up, because he was an orphan. So he opened up to him. He had his moments where if a child was in trouble, he'd go from this really quiet loner to this knight in shining armor, where he'd get in front of them and take anything that needed to be done. Whoa. And that's a great character depth. That's just really fun to me, is that kind of thing. Yeah. But so let's go with another little twist. Because you've been playing a barbarian for a good while now. Yeah. I'd say that you've learned some lessons. For people playing either a barbarian or dwarves or a tank archetype, what was your advice for both inside and outside of combat?
Inside combat, if you're like low levels and stuff before you hit 14, and if you're going totem warrior, I can help you completely. Berserker's kind of different because you're not as tanky. You only get half damage against physical means. I get everything but psychic. Mm-hmm. So basically what I do is I try to pull in as much aggro and I try to do what damage I can. It's not always about dealing damage. It's more about receiving on my roll.
Mm-hmm. I've yet to kill him.
The only time
I've tried and I have yet to kill him.
The closest I got was I had like a little brain creature.
Yeah,
hit me with that.
I hit you with psychic, and even that didn't really phase you all that much.
Well, that intelligence saving throw knocked me to
that spooked you.
Well, not really unconscious, but yeah.
Yeah, that was good though. So you would recommend definitely own your tankiness to the party?
Oh yeah, because whenever I was making my character, I was like, what do they need? He said, well, they could use this, a tank. Did you say tank? Yes, he did. Guess what? That's what I'll be.
And you play a very good tank. You do. You play a very good tank. But how about outside of combat? Like for role-playing barbarian?
I mean, I didn't roll super low on intelligence. My intelligence is 9. So I'm not dumb. I'm not the brightest. But stuff I know how to do, I can do good.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that you tend to play a very rash character with your low intelligence. Not so much as book smarts, but that you don't think.
I don't think things through. I'm a person in the moment. Mm-hmm. It's like if there's like a prince and he's like, "Hey, you're an asshole," I punch the prince.
But that's a good thing to think of too. Is how do you highlight lower stats? Because I personally love one low stat per character. Even my NPCs typically have at least one low stat because it's fun to go on, and every stat has a fun little way to roleplay it. A very low dex character could be this fumbling person who's always tripping on themselves, or very, kind of just everywhere, kind of just sporadic and can't carry stuff. Wisdom I typically play as a very rash character, typically, or somebody who just doesn't think things through whatsoever. Yeah. Intelligence, 9 times out of 10, I do play on actual intelligence factors. Yeah. My favorite to play on is charisma because there's so many different facets that you can roleplay with that. Low charisma can mean you're just mean to people. You don't talk. You're a very quiet person. You mumble you just can't talk well, or that you get nervous. There's so many ways that you can mess with a low charisma character. Yeah, it's very fun to me.
Mine's mediocre. I have 10 charisma as well. Those are my 2 lowest stats.
Yeah.
And the way I play that is it's just like, I'm not sophisticated or anything. I know how to speak language, but I'm not going to sit here and spit out a thesaurus. It's like, I want this. I want to do this. If you don't do this, fist.
At 3rd level. But, and this is, of course, also if you want to roleplay off your stats. You don't have to do this. Like I said, there's no wrong way to roleplay. But I personally, like I said earlier, do think about positive and negative role-playing. Neither one of those is wrong, but it is an interesting mindset to think of how can I add to this character rather than what can I take away from it. Because at the end of the day, this game, like I've said, I think in episode 1 it's about empathy. It's about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. So you want to try and role-play something realistic. Nobody is robotic enough to where nothing phases them. Even the most hardcore, in-your-face, scowling character will eventually hit a sore spot where he just loses his stuff or something that he feels very sad about. Think about that next time you're making a character, because I promise you at the end, those moments of these little opportune opening ups or these moments where something hits you hard in the heart for that character are going to be some of your favorites, I feel. Like I said, one of my favorites with you was with Avaris.
Yeah, and recently with the blood count guy. Oh. Yeah, basically, this guy is he created blood magic, I think it is.
I did a little lore thing with blood magic, which is an offset of regular casting, and they had met the initial creator.
He's 10,000 years
old. Which was a very interesting thing, especially because you came in late to the game, so you didn't meet the phase when they were dealing with blood magic.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, and it was a very powerful character, and he didn't seem to care a lot, but at the end of it, he made this ultimate sacrifice to bring you guys home.
He literally
because they
killed
were
himself.
banished.
He literally killed himself, and everyone's like, "Okay, let's leave." And I'm like, he just killed himself.
There's more coming with that. But I feel like we've gotten a real good hit with this. I mean, I'm so happy I got you in for roleplay.
Yeah.
You are a very fun one. I have some other characters in mind for roleplay too, but you're definitely the loudest.
Oh,
and
God.
sometimes loudness speaks volumes. Sorry, entertain myself right there. But sometimes it really does. Loudness and roleplay does sometimes speak volumes in the sense of it's more memorable and more noticeable.
For example,
But you don't have to.
When we were in the Underdark and everyone was sleeping, I was on watch duty first. Oh yeah, you're just sitting there. You hear the clatter of creatures, dripping sounds, the occasional call for help, some other stuff. Help. I hear something. So I wake up our druid. What do you want? Someone's calling for help. Help. Whatever, just shut up. We need to go help them! And I start like yelling and stuff, and then Zach's like, okay, everybody's now awake.
Yeah. I do that. Do you want to talk about the Elder Brain? Because I mentioned the Elder Brain to you guys in a couple other videos. This is the guy.
Bro, that was terrifying. Like, playing it from Arendir's perspective, it's like, how is it talking to me? It knows my name. I don't know it. It knows where I am. I don't know where it is. So I can't hit it.
That was such a fun moment. And it's funny because you created that horror scenario in your own mindset. I was just texting you.
Yeah.
That was I was like, I know where you are.
I got really into it. Because it's like, in Arendir's mind, it's like, okay, I can't see it. It knows where I am. This is not a good situation.
That was really good, man. I'm very happy to have you on board, man. I hope to see you again soon.
Oh, yeah.
This has been Roleplaying from Dice Check. I'm Zen. Have a day from me. Do you have any closing remarks?
Ah!
Hey, Morvar, take us home. Not this time.